right, thank you. Thank you for taking a seat, and most of all, thank you for being here today at our Collaborating for Success, Continuing the Conversation Forum. I would like to welcome you all today. My name is Joni Scritchlow, and I am with INCRA, and we administer Gateways to Opportunity. Can you in the back of the room hear okay? Is there anyone who's having trouble hearing? Doing well. Okay, good. I would like to put the microphone up here because I tell you, I talk with my hands and there's a little bit of risk here in me having this microphone in my hand. I might decide to use my hands and the microphone go flying, so I'll try to be mindful of that as we go here. I want to start here by thanking our funding partners. We had a lot of contributions here to make this forum happen today. So the Governor's Office of Early Childhood Development, our Illinois Department of Human Services, the Robert R. McCormick Foundation, and our Illinois Head Start Association are among some of our key funders. Our planning committee and colleagues here include faculty from around the state, representatives from the Illinois Board of Higher Education, the Illinois State Board of Education, the Illinois Community College Board, the Governor's Office of Early Childhood Development, the Early Childhood Center of Professional Development, the Center, and INCRA. And I would like the planning committee members to please stand, because these folks put in a lot of work. Please stand. We have Brian Mikowski, Kathy Main, Christy Chadwick, Elizabeth Sherwood. Stand and keep standing, folks. Joyce Weiner, Karen McCarthy, Lori Morrison-Frichtel, Pat Chamberlain, Robin Young, Sarah Siebert, Stephanie Bernotype, Nora Harrison, and Sue Deason. Could we give these folks all a round of applause? It takes a lot of planning. We had a lot of telephone calls in order to pull this off today. So really a big thanks to everyone who participated in that. And if you want to be part of next year's planning group, just see me. We're going to take your name down and we will be coming around the corner then on next year's planning pretty soon, I'm sure. This is actually the Gateways to Opportunity 10th Higher Education Faculty Forum. And I think that it was really a very innovative when the concept first originated with PDAC, the Professional Development Advisory Council, this idea of convening a Gateways to Opportunity faculty forum in order to provide faculty with an opportunity to come together to discuss research and to network and to hear from state experts. And I would tell you that it has grown every year. So it's wonderful that we have around 110, 120 folks who registered here to come this year. So we're absolutely delighted. This 10th Gateways Forum will provide opportunities for networking, some innovative sharing of models for teacher preparation program design and redesign, and it will provide some research-based current professional development workshops. I want to do just a couple of quick housekeeping details here. When you registered, most of you received a folder. I hope everyone received a folder. If you don't have one of these, step right outside in the hallway and we'll make sure that you get one. Okay, in your folder you have a conference agenda and it has the schedule for both days. It also includes the round table topics that are set for first thing tomorrow morning. So please take a look at those so you can be thinking about as you snag your breakfast what tables you want to move around to, what kind of conversations you want to have with colleagues. Now when you checked in, you also received a small jump drive. This right here, okay? So this jump drive has some PowerPoints on it from the state panel presentation, some from tomorrow's breakout sessions, and links to key websites. It includes information about the HERO website, which you're going to be hearing a lot more about as the day progresses. We are going to use an electronic evaluation system after the forum. So you'll receive an email, and in that will be a link to provide feedback on the forum, and we really do ask that you please complete that. It really will help inform what type of webinars or follow-up we might want to offer after the forum, and it gives us a really good platform of thinking about what the needs are in the state, and it serves as the foundational or beginning structure for next year's higher education forum. So when you get that link, please do fill it out. In that email, we likely will also be sending you PowerPoint presentations that are not yet on the jump drive. I am one of the ones who did not have the PowerPoint presentation all done to be loaded on the jump drive. But I am not alone in that. There are a few folks who still have PowerPoint presentations. We will send you those and you can then load them yourself on the jump drive if they contained information that you would like to have readily accessible and all in one place. All right, last we have some projects that are really in development at INCRA, and I would like the INCRA team to please stand up, okay? So we've got a lot of folks here today, and I wanted you to help put some names and faces. So, you know, what we've got here in terms of faculty, most of you know Andrew Hand. Andy provides technical assistance to faculty that are wishing to become entitled. He helps coordinate the entitled review processes, the group that meets that has oversight over the entitlement. And I would have to say too, Jenny Kemp. Jenny, you're somewhere here in the room, and she co-chairs that entitled group, of faculty here in the state. So if you have any questions about any of those things, please talk with Andy. We are also developing a brand new, we're opening the pilot for a technical assistance credential. And this is Tricia Desmond right here. Tricia's handling our technology today. Tricia is also working and beginning to kick off a partnership with higher education institutions in the state who have coursework that would help inform relationship-based professional development. So we're thinking about like coaches and mentors and some of our quality and other specialists around the state. So if your institution would like to partner with us in this newest pilot for a credential, please see Tricia. In the back of the room here, we have Tammy O'Daniel. Tammy is working directly with the pilot. We're piloting with about a half a dozen of you here in the room, the Family Child Care Credential. Next to her, we also have Stephanie Helmer. Stephanie is working in partnership with, again, another half a dozen schools related to the Family Specialist Credential Pilot. And Nora Harrison up here, Nora right up front here, she works directly with many of you, faculty, on behalf of students that have applied to receive an entitled credential. And as you all know from the emails and the information that you got, she undertook a major part of organizing all the details for today's forum. So I'd like a round of applause for Nora. All right, thank you to the INCRA team, much appreciated. All right, as we move on today, everyone in this room, I think, has at least, I would say, varying levels, but I hope very significant levels of recognition of how very hard we are working here in the state to increase the quality of our early childhood programs and services. The Governor's Office of Early Childhood has successfully gained multiple early childhood-focused federal grants, and both federal and state resources are really being directed to early childhood. All of us. We all want to ensure that children and families, especially our high-risk children and families, have access to the very best and the very highest quality services. The very best early learning and development programs that we can provide to those children and families. Alignment and integration across our many programs serving children and families is increasing throughout child care, preschool for all, Prevention Initiative, Head Start, and early Head Start programs and settings. But what we all know is to really have a big impact on quality, to strengthen quality, we know that our workforce or teacher preparation is really what's key. Partnership with all of you in the room is what is so essential. We are so fortunate that we have great teacher preparation programs for early childhood here in this state. Higher education institutions are really the critical factor in providing the coursework and training that we need for our early childhood current and our future workforce. We want them to attain the education and training needed that gains them licensure and credentials. We have approximately 80 institutions of higher education in the state, and of that group, 76% have embedded Gateway's credential requirements within their programs. And what that means is then for students and working professionals who return to school and attend these schools, they are completing, while they're taking the coursework, what is required to attain a credential. The Gateway's credentials have a balanced model for teacher preparation, and it was designed by many of you in the room, by many faculty, and tested across a multi-year process. And it includes the broad range of knowledge and skill sets that we know are required to support a whole child and family perspective. Now, in just the last 5 years, the number of Illinois higher education institutions who have aligned their coursework voluntarily with one or more Gateway's credentials has doubled. We had 31 schools in 2010, and we have 62 schools today. Take a look at your name badge real quick. If you have a tag saying you're a Gateway's entitled school, could you just stand up for a second? Hooray! I think that deserves a round of applause. Now, similarly, this chart here shows the phenomenal increase in awarded credentials. So what I want you to note is that approximately the first 1,000 credentials awarded took almost a decade, 9 years to reach. And then in just 2 years, fiscal year 10 and 11, in excess of another 800 credentials were awarded, almost equaling the previous decade. Credentials came close to doubling in fiscal year 12 and 13, and then there was a huge upswing in fiscal year 14. And look where we are today, just 9 months into fiscal year 15, so there's still a ways to go there. And all of these credentials required significant amounts of college coursework. So kudos today to all of you for the courses that you taught to enable to get us where we are today. Now this screen shows the number of credential applications. So this shows the high level of interest that is out there in the field, and it distinctly reflects the impact of the inclusion of Gateway's credentials within Accelerate Illinois. In just the last 9 months of fiscal year 15, almost as many credential applications have been received as since credential inception in 2001. That is one heck of an increase, folks. Okay. All right, so now what we have here is our current institutions that are entitled for the ECE credential today. 58 schools, or around 3/4 of all the institutions that have early childhood programs. And we have another 8 schools that are in the process of gaining entitlement. An interesting side note for all of you is that when I look at those 80 institutions in Illinois with early childhood programs, we have about a 60-40 split. In other words, about 60% are 2-year institutions and 40% are 4-year institutions, which makes sense. We have more 2-year community colleges in our state than we have 4-year institutions that have early childhood programs. But in terms of 2- and 4-year institutions across credentials, the community colleges, you finally caught up. And in fact, you just moved a little bit past the 4-year schools. For the last decade, the 4-year institutions were in the lead. They were entitled for Gateway's credentials at a higher rate or percentage of overall capacity here in Illinois. But this year, 75% of our possible 4-year, 75% of the 4-year, and 79% of the 2-year are now entitled. So community colleges, I get asked that a lot. Well, who's got more? It's community colleges, right? And I'm like, actually, when you look at the percentage of who could be entitled, the 4-years have had the lead for a long time. But community colleges, you just stepped past. Now this is an infant toddler credential entitled institution map. And this looks a little bit different. When the Gateway's infant toddler credential was piloted in 2008, we had less than 10 schools that we could find in the entire state of Illinois that had infant toddler specific coursework. Less than 10 schools in 2008. We had an entire committee that worked on that for a couple of years, and they searched high and low to try to find courses. Today, that number has increased. We have 36 schools that are entitled for the credentials in just a very few years, when you think about 2008 to today. So again, hats off to all of you as faculty for recognizing this need and for developing the coursework required by the Gateway's infant toddler credential. But we have room to grow because infant toddler coursework really needs to be available in even broader parts of the state. So Gateway's registry data tells us we have over 14,000 infant toddler teachers in Illinois, and the vast majority of them need to take coursework to be better prepared to work with children birth to 36 months. Now this is the Illinois Director Credential Entitled Map, and this is another area for growth. The Illinois Director Credential Map shows 28 institutions in the state that are entitled, which means they have the administrative coursework that supports attainment of the Illinois Director Credential. And with the inclusion of the IDC in Accelerate, and with the upcoming July 1st, 2017 change in DCFS licensing that includes the Illinois Director Credential as one way of demonstrating that directors of licensed programs meet staff education qualifications, we know that the need is actually increasing for schools to be able to offer this administrative coursework. Now let's take a quick look at what happens when students graduate from all those schools that we just noted are entitled for Gateway's credentials. Do you see this massive trajectory of change that we are seeing in the awarding of credentials in partnership with higher education institutions. So we are working on a variety of fronts right now to help develop strategies that maximize credential attainment for students who complete credential requirements through entitled institutions. So what you can see here is we began that shift in 2012. A partnership with the McCormick Foundation led to the development of Jumpstarts. And then when the credentials were placed in Accelerate, it really ramped up the pace. So we're on a definite trend upward. There have been a couple of key changes to Gateway's credentials that I wanted to make sure everyone was aware of. Students that attend higher education institutions that are entitled for credentials send in their application and transcript to gain their credential. So it's kind of similar to the process for students who gain their professional educator licensure. They complete the program and they apply to ISB after graduation in order to gain their license. As many of you know, as of January 2015, professional contributions are no longer required to attain a credential. They are just required for renewal purposes. So many of you faculty have expressed an interest in leaving professional contributions embedded in your coursework. You are welcome to do so. That is an institutional decision, but please know it is not required for credential attainment. So a couple of quick facts here, and I know I need to keep this short, so we're going to move on kind of quickly here. What do we know about the Illinois early childhood workforce, and especially teachers? And this came up in some earlier conversations this morning. What facts do we know? Well, this is the sources of data that we would use in terms of looking at our workforce. Of the 65,000 Gateways Registry members who are current, and I will tell you, if we go back and include those from maybe, say, 2.5 years ago who didn't renew their membership, we would have a database that is closer to 90,000. But of the current 65,000 members, half, 48%, say they work in a licensed programmer setting as a teacher or teacher assistant. That means there's a workforce in excess of 31,000 in the state working as teachers and teachers assistants. And this is before we add ISB Preschool for All data, which is not yet included in the registry. And as I just picked up off the ISB's website, the most current data I could find was 2011, and there's at least another 3,622 teachers from the ISB website working in Preschool for All programs. So combined, we're talking 35,000 in this number, and we know this does not include, I did not include family child care or unlicensed programs. And from registry data, we also know that of those who work as teacher and teacher assistants, about 44% of that subset, which is around 14,000, say they work with infants and toddlers. Now, when we look at early childhood career growth, I want you to look in your folder. I'm not going to take the time to hold it up. You have an infographic that comes from the U.S. Department of Labor, and it demonstrates how 14% is the anticipated rate of growth in early childhood careers. So when we think about trying to encourage students to think about this as a career choice, this is one of the fastest growing career fields that they're seeing in the nation. Now, the Institute of Medicine and National Research Council of National Academies put out a new report just last week, and it has some implications for our state and federal agenda, and probably will impact workforce development here in Illinois. I'm sure you're going to be hearing a lot more about this the rest of today and tomorrow, and in conversations among yourselves. One of the things that they recommended is that we would develop and implement a comprehensive pathway and a multi-year timeline for transitioning to a minimum bachelor's degree qualification requirement with specialized knowledge and competencies for all lead educators working with children birth to 8. Well, if this recommendation were to be adopted, and if we began a 10-year plan to put this in place, we've got some work to do. We do have some supports. The infrastructure through gateways and the investments that we have made in Illinois does give us a significant edge over other states. However, we need to create, innovate, and implement far more comprehensive pathways that ensure a minimal loss of credit so that our teachers can really advance through the system and gain these bachelor's degrees. When we think about the collective workforce of professionals that are serving young children across all settings, questions often come up about education levels. So you can see here that we know 75% of teachers working in a licensed setting, which includes most child care and Head Start, early Head Start programs, do have a degree. The actual amount of ECE and ECE-related coursework, however, is very important because I wasn't just talking about a degree in early childhood, but that they have a degree. So what we also know is that for teachers who have a bachelor's degree, the average amount of combined ECE and ECE coursework is in excess of about 45 semester hours. And we know that for teachers with an associate degree, the average amount of ECE and ECE-related coursework combined is about 35 semester hours. And you also have an infographic in your folder that talks a little bit further about those education statistics. So I'll let you take a look at that. As we get ready to close here and we pull the data apart and think about licensed center teacher assistant education, we did a little bit of a breakout here. So around 32% of our teacher assistants have degrees. And that compares to 75% of teachers. So we have a significant opportunity here in terms of moving, I think, some of our teacher assistants forward on the education trajectory. We also have an opportunity in terms of looking at some college. We've looked at this before. We are no different than other workforces. We have a large number of individuals out here who've taken a lot of college classes, but have yet to clinch the degree or the credential. And I think that is a trajectory that we're seeing across a lot of other career fields as well. But what a waste. What a waste. What can we do to maximize that? What can we do to reach out and help those folks complete degrees and credentials? And I wanted to pull one last slide up here to close with because I find this fascinating, and I'm just kind of putting it out there as food for thought. What I want to tell you is I think there's areas here in the state where maybe research could tell us where we should go next, what we should be thinking about. I think this room is full of some research experts, and I think the questions are really everywhere. How can we engage a more diverse audience of teachers here in Illinois? What's the best way to move forward to really help increase knowledge and skill sets and credentials and degrees for our early childhood workforce? I think in times of change, there's a time for the most opportunity. And when I look at this, what I see is that if you look at the demographics and you look at how rich the diversity is, how more rich the diversity is when you start looking at our assistant teacher pool and our licensed family child care providers, maybe some intentional reach out or some intentional constructs around how could we engage you in thinking about being that lead teacher, because we really have a wonderful rich range of diversity when we look at this. The opportunity, in short, I would say, is right now. We need to build from our current infrastructure and successes. We really need to work hard to increase the stackability and portability of credentials that were developed by all of you from all around the state, and then use those partnerships to help increase our workforce capacity in a way that really ensures that all of our teachers have the skills and knowledge needed to provide the very highest quality services to our young children and families. All right, that's enough for the beginning, you think? That's some food for thought there. Okay.